What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk, an Xbox podcast, episode number 180, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Kevin, and on today's episode, we're going to talk about Helldivers coming to Xbox. Xbox Q3 financials are in, and oof, things are not looking good over there. Grounded PS5 performance is not as good as one might think, and so much more. Before we get to all that, gotta introduce my co-host, JamPackSam, rocking with me again. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right, man. It has been a very busy week for me on the back end of things, but as always, making time for the important things in life, coming together, talking Xbox with the Project XTalk crew. So that's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to hearing about some games. I'm looking at the what we're playing section, some new releases coming out. We're getting back into the swing of constantly having something to play. This week alone has so many games, and I know there's one you haven't checked out yet, but Another Crab's Treasure, man. Listen, I was looking at some things today, and I was like, should I play this game?
Yeah, that's up on my roster for the weekend, I think, which I always say something's on my roster for the weekend, and then inevitably something else comes along to derail the plan for the weekend. But yeah, definitely want to check that one out for sure.
And shout out to everyone hanging in the chat with us. Oh, Locklith is here over on Twitch. Shout out
Ooh.
Locklith, Silking It, Crab. Yes, that is right. Crab Gang. Let's go. I don't know if I'll actually get to it. If I do, I might just use the gun and like kill every, just
You
plow
could
through
do
it.
that. You could do
I
that.
can do that.
The crabs are coming strapped these days, so you got to be careful.
Did you see their video? I think it came out today where they were talking about like their Dark Souls mode, but then they made the joke that they actually just stole like a location from Elden Ring and threw it in the game. And they're
No, I
like,
did not see
it
this.
was so good, man. I'll have to send you that, but it was really funny.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
all right. Well, before we get into the show, let's do some housekeeping. This is Project X Talk. We are live every Thursday right here on youtube.com/save the game media. If you can't catch us live, we post every Friday morning on your favorite audio platform of choice. While you're over there, please make sure to drop us that 5-star review. It helps us so much. I see them coming in. I go to the analytics. I know you guys are helping us out. I appreciate it. Keep it up. If you haven't already, would mean the world to us. If you want to support us even further and get early access to Save the Game Media content, bonus post shows like the one we're going to do right after this, head over to patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current Patreon supporters. So thank you to Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Lindsay, Nikolai at Night, Cypher, Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, David Hotright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Alpaca Tom, and Lee Navarro. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate each and every one of you. Before we get, before we get into the news, let's talk about what we've been playing. Sam, what you got for me?
So I have had a little bit limited time this week, and when I do have time to play, it's kind of like I just need to turn off and just enjoy something a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, Halo Infinite's been on the roster as per usual. But Helldivers 2 has solidified its place in the rotation. I wasn't sure if this game would end up really kind of reaching that height for me where I keep coming back week after week, but
Mm-hmm.
I successfully collected enough stuff in game to buy a war bond. I have not spent
Ooh.
any additional money on this game other than just buying it, which isn't like a flex or anything. It's just cool that I can do that. I like that. And I want to reiterate, it's not that I have bought a battle pass and have grinded enough to earn the stuff in the battle pass. It's that I literally just bought the game and you can
Mm-hmm.
earn enough stuff to buy a battle pass. Like that's neat, or they call them war bonds. But I bought my second war bond, if you want to call it that, from the out of the base earnable thing, and so I'm grinding that a little bit. But I think I'm coming up on right around level. I want to say 18. I think I'm
Ooh,
somewhere around
flying.
there. Yeah, so I'm not I'm not doing anything too crazy, but I'm having a good time with Helldivers 2. So it has kept me playing, and that's not something a lot of games can say these days.
Yeah, I mean, I was we had some good times
We
Saturday.
did.
This past Saturday, you, me, Ryu, and Butch over
Yep.
at the XEP Discord. We're all playing some Helldivers together for a few hours, and it got crazy at the end there. It was like one of us was alive, the other two were like, just live, or man, that game gets wild. It's hilarious every time. I don't know why the difficulty suddenly jumped,
That
but
was crazy, man. Yeah.
yeah, the game continues to be a lot of fun. And like you said, I personally, I don't always feel like the progression, like, oh, I played for 2 hours and got one level and maybe like a gun, and that's kind of it. I would love to get more, but there are times where I've logged in and it's like, you've completed the major objective, and it's like, here's all this stuff, and I'm like, I could just unlock so many super credits right now and then just buy literally the entire premium store.
Yeah, it's very interesting to have it kind of alongside games like Call of Duty or Battlefield that are, at least in the first like part of the game, you're grinding through levels left and right. Like you're really getting stuff done because it hooks you in. You want to keep the grind going. And Helldivers 2 does that, but it's much more traditional. Like it feels like an older
Mhm.
game in a lot of ways, not in a negative way. Um, but yeah, definitely gonna be playing more of that. I've got a couple of friends lined up in real world that are wanting to be like, "Oh, you play Helldivers? Well,
Mm.
let's go spread some democracy." So I'll be playing more of that this weekend. But I've also been playing a little bit of No Rest for the Wicked, and I
Okay.
got a review code for that, and so I redeemed it and I've downloaded it on Steam Deck and on my main PC. I've only been playing on Steam Deck so far,
Mm.
and I'm probably like, I would say like 45 minutes an hour, like super early into it.
Mhm.
Um, Really, I just got out of the tutorial area where it's kind of like, all right, here are the mechanics, now go off and be free. And so I'm kind of like exploring the map, just kind of getting a feel for the game. Very difficult for me so far, like
Mm.
shockingly challenging in terms of combat. It's definitely not the isometric Diablo hack and slash style kind of thing that I had kind of thought that it would be. So that's like pleasant, and also I'm not in that mood right now, so it's a blend of both for me.
Yeah, they said No Rest for the Wicked would be very inspired by Souls combat, which I know you're not unfamiliar with. You are a Souls. You've played some Souls games, Wolong, Lies of P. Like
Yeah,
you've dabbled. All right, it's not that you're
I have dabbled.
unfamiliar with that. Um, like that is what keeps me away from the game, because I think visually absolutely beautiful from like what I've seen of the game. I think
Yeah.
it's gorgeous. How does it run on Steam Deck? I heard there's some technical issues and the Steam Deck doesn't handle it very well.
Yeah, I mean, it is playable. It is not Steam Deck verified or certified coming right out of the gate. So, go in with that expectation. It is an early access game, like it's one that's going to have some bugs scattered throughout. But typically, when it comes to FPS, I'm getting between like 30 to 35, generally speaking. In certain instances, it'll dip down into the 20s, but it's like a little quick dip. So
Mhm.
I would consider it like playable, from what I've done so far. It's not chugging along or anything. So I don't think that you should shy away from it if you just have a Steam Deck.
Mhm.
I'm sure it plays better on the ROG Ally and other stuff that has a little bit more beef behind it. But I do want to play it on the main PC. I want to try out any kind of ultra wide modes they've got, because I think that what is lost in the Steam Deck mode is that you lose so much of that detail that the art style is really bringing here. And I think that is what this game really is shining with, is that it's got a really cool art style, cool art direction. Um, it takes the beauty of the Ori games and it applies it to a totally different gameplay style. And
Mhm.
so I think that that's kind of lost on the Steam Deck because of just lower resolution screen. The colors might not pop as much if you have the basic one like me. So stuff like that. I want to try it on the big screen with a beefier PC to kind of get the full experience.
Yeah, and it's sitting at mostly positive reviews over on Steam, so people seem to be enjoying it. I think from what I've seen, most of the complaints are I didn't expect a Souls like or technical issues on their end.
Yeah, the gameplay is just not what I personally am accustomed to for this type of game. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's
Mhm.
just defying the expectations that people kind of have going in, and those are preconceived. Like that's not something they did market well enough, I don't think. I think it's just like it's kind of a shock when you come in. It's like, oh, I've died 5 times. Neat, cool.
Well, it's also like if people just see, oh, Moon Studios, they made the Ori games. Like
Yeah.
I kind of know what I'm gonna get into here, and then you jump in, you're like, this is not like Ori at all.
Yeah, so I'm going to spend more time with it. I've got my little small qualms here and there with it, but I will report back next week and see how week 2 of my time with No Rest for the Wicked has gone.
Awesome, awesome. Looking forward to hear more about it. That's a game. Maybe like, are there difficulty options, or is it just a flat out
I
like this
haven't
is what
actually
the game
dug
is?
in. That was my next thing
Okay.
whenever I play tonight is, can I kick this down a little bit? So I'll report back very briskly with that one.
Awesome, awesome. If anyone in chat lets knows that, let me know. But I touched on Helldivers too with you. I then played, and this is going to sound weird. I played the Grinch Christmas Adventures. And I,
Tis the season. I mean,
tis the season. You know, Christmas in April is what's going on here. But no, I won another giveaway from our friends over at Carpool Gaming. They gave away a few games, and the Grinch was in the list along with Assassin's Creed, which I donated to other Sam over at on No Limits, our sister PlayStation show. So he's playing Mirage over there, and then I have Far Cry 6 and Riders Republic, so which might go into the Extra Life giveaway if nobody wants those, but we'll see about that. But the one I didn't give away, the Grinch Christmas Adventures, and let me tell you, this might be one of the worst games ever made.
really? All right.
It
So
is.
lay it on me. Like, what's the hang up with it?
It's made by Outright Games, which is anyone knows Outright Games. I'm not trying to crap on them. They know their market, and their market are small children, but they grossly overprice their games, and they're not very good at making the game. So this is essentially a 2D platformer. You control the Grinch and you just move side to side, jumping on things. But there's 3 worlds, 6 levels in each. You have to collect all the puzzle pieces. I platinumed this game, by the way, 2 hours or so. I platinumed the entire game. You collect presents at every level for no reason. The presents do not matter. It just gives you you collected 97%. Can you do anything with the presents? Absolutely not. Just random game design. You collect puzzle pieces. You know, because the Grinch, known for puzzles, like
Of course.
a big part of the story is the Grinch making the puzzles. And then what you do when you collect enough puzzle pieces is you actually have to drag them onto a image that shows you the completed puzzle, and you just literally drag the pieces into the spot that they go to. And then it unlocks a power for the Grinch. Like you can throw a snowball and freeze an enemy. You can get a jetpack to jump higher. Do you need any of these things? No, you do not. They are absolutely pointless. They contribute nothing to the game. It's not like a Metroidvania. Like, oh, I have the jetpack now. I can reach this other area. Like, nope. You can get everywhere and at any time. Nothing matters in this game. They literally just put it in there to make the game longer and give you tedious things to do. But free platinum. Hadn't platinum a game in a while. I was very bored Sunday, if you can't tell. So that's what I did.
Yeah, I can clearly see your board. Personally, I'm shocked that the makers of My Little Pony, A Zephyr Heights Mystery, Paw Patrol Grand Prix, and PJ Masks Power Heroes Mighty Alliance isn't putting out a Grinch themed banger. But thank you for doing the Lord's work and really putting in that work. Bluey the video game. These guys have it all. I mean, that's a pretty big name to get. But I'm not playing this one.
Are they also the team that did the Peppa Pig games?
I believe they did the Peppa Pig games. You're gonna have Court Lalonde coming for you, man.
He knows how I feel about the Peppa Pig game. I've made it very clear to Court that I think that game was horrible. Did I get the 100% for it? Yes, I did.
Yeah, you
did. Did I also play Race with Ryan and get the 100% for that one? Yes, I did.
Yes, you did. There's also a JoJo Siwa game, which I've heard is a popular young individual these days. So Baby Sharks Sing and Swim Party. If you're looking for another easy plat, Cocomelon also on the roster.
Yeah. I think they just put out that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game as well.
Oh God, they did that one.
That beat 'em up one that literally just came out today. Not the one that's coming to Switch that was on Apple, like the one that just came out to this week.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Because I was like, I remember there was that one arcade one that was like coming to Switch after it had been abandoned somewhere for years on end. So I didn't know if there was that one or not.
No, I don't think they're doing that one. Silkenate, your board and Pseudoregalia is there just waiting for you. But these are free. That's really, if that game is free, I'll play it. Not right now. I got things to play. As I will continue through my list. I also picked, I didn't pick it up. It's on PS Plus, but I checked out Tales of Kenzera Zao.
Oh, how you feeling about that one?
The new Metroidvania from the Abu Salim, I think is that his name?
I think that sounds right.
Yeah. He was in Assassin's Creed, and he's been really passionate about the game. I've been looking forward to it. I still think it looks very good. I will say, after an hour playing it, not feeling it. Gonna be honest with you. I know everyone else I've talked to has really enjoyed it. Sam over on No Limits platinum the game already. Like he blew through it. It's just not really clicking with me. And I don't know if it's a time thing. Like if I come back to this in a few months, I will enjoy it more. But something about it feels off. I think the combat is devised. You have two masks, like the moon and the sun mask. The sun mask is melee combat, and the moon is like shooting. I think the moon mask feels a lot better to actively engage in the combat with. I think some of the movement doesn't feel particularly right to me, and I can't figure out why. Like the jumps, especially when you're wall jumping, I almost feel like the walls are just slightly too far apart, and it makes it feel not good to traverse.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and there was one section. It's the first challenge in the game. I have a gameplay clip of it. Maybe I'll throw it up for people to see. But there are little challenges throughout the world that'll give you like medallions that'll give you like a special effect or something. But to get to them, you have to complete a difficult platforming section. And this one wasn't that hard. You rode some water, you dashed through spikes, repeat. For some reason, I sat here probably 15, 20 minutes. Every time I would dash, the spikes would just murder me mid dash. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong because I would repeat it over and over again. Sometimes I get through two of the spikes and not the third. And I'm like, I'm about to uninstall this game right here because something is broken. Like, did they not test this? What's going on?
Yeah, I googled it. It's Abu Bakr Salim, I think is the actual name of the director. Yeah, I haven't played it. I don't have a PlayStation 5 with PlayStation Plus, so I don't plan on playing this anytime soon. It's just not something that would really appeal to me under normal circumstances. Obviously, there was a lot of good press with the meaning behind the game. That's what really kind of drove it originally to some notoriety, if you will, because it's about grieving your loss and dealing with the concept of death and stuff like that. So there's a really good story there. Coming off of the Prince of Persia game earlier this year, I just don't feel compelled to get another one of these Metroidvanias in this style. And even what you just described of like, you've got to dash through a parkour challenge to get to a medallion. I did that a whole lot in January. So like, I've got my fill on that. So I hope that the game does well. It's just not grabbing my eye in terms of like the art style and the gameplay that it's delivering. And I would assume that if it's not grabbing my eye, somebody who's like deeply tuned into the gaming world and stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if the general population kind of had a hard time grappling onto this one. So I don't know if it'll be another Immortals of Avium style situation or not, but hoping for the best. I mean, it's $20 normally, right? So it's not a huge high priced game. So maybe that'll give it a little bit more of a bump when it comes to how many people are checking it out.
Ghostly March in the chat says, I love Metroidvanias. I might try it after Stellar Blade. Silken and the other Sam are letting me know you can just crouch under the spikes. Didn't know that was a thing.
Well, there you go. Now we know.
Hadn't told me to crouch under things. Like, because there's a door that you have to dash through when I felt like I could crouch, but it doesn't let you. So you have to dash. So I just assumed because of the previously taught mechanics that is what I had to do.
Embarrassing, quite frankly. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
But hey, now we know. Look at this.
No, I beat it. Like I beat the challenge, so it doesn't help me at this point. But the other complaint or nitpicks, I will say, still stand. Despite I've seen some good reception, people seem to be enjoying it. It got that PS Plus deal, so hopefully this is going to turn out in a much better situation than Immortals of Avium. Also launching, I think, $17 or $20. I think if you didn't pre-order it, so pretty good there. I also want to talk about one last thing, which has mainly been taking up my time this week. I'm about 5-6 hours into Iden Chronicle 100 Heroes, the one you've been waiting to hear about, Sam, for sure. I know you were like, oh, this is the game I can't wait to hear Kevin talk about.
I will relay to my fiance whenever she is asking me about this game, because she's been looking forward to this one, Iden Chronicles, whatever it's called, the new one on Game Pass. She's been pumped about it.
So this game, I will say, I like it. I don't love it currently. And whether that is because I'm still early, like I've heard after 7 hours, the story starts to pick up, and I kind of feel that like we're building up to something. 6 hours in, I'm about to go off to another quest. They're clearly like teasing a sort of conflict that's happening in the background, and I assume we're going to get pulled into that. But my main issues with this game, it's more quality of life features, I would say. Like there's no high speed mode or turbo mode or whatever you want to call it. So like you have to sit there and watch them do all of their animations in combat every single time. When you level up, you don't get your health all the way restored. There are save points. You can't just save whenever you want. So like I have been living this game in quick resume because there are times where I'm just like, I have no idea where the next save point is. I gotta get off the Xbox right now. It's just like, oh, and the big one. If a party member participates in 99% of the battle and then dies right before the enemy dies, I should still get experience. That is
Oh,
that is an old trope that needs to die. All these are old tropes. So there are just little frustrating nitpicks that kind of, it's not ruining the experience, but I'm like, this feels a little dated.
yeah, that all sounds very frustrating. I can't relate personally because I've never
Mhm.
had to deal with this. I do know the turbo mode. Fiance uses the turbo mode constantly because it's just like basically an idle game at that point, and you just kind of keep grinding through it. So the absence of that will be felt in this household. I do not know if that will impact how long the game is played or not, but I will report back once again and let you know.
There's no run button either. Like you're just, your guy automatically does like a little jog, but you can't
Mm.
speed him up. So like how fast he moves is how fast he moves. There, uh, it's random encounters, which I don't know if this has been fixed, but at launch, the random encounter rate was tied to your screen's hertz. So like if you had a higher refresh rate, you would get less encounters and then you'd be under leveled. But if you had a lower one, you'd get battles all the time. I don't know if they fixed that yet.
Why would that be tied to the refresh rate of a monitor?
I have no idea, but they literally told people turn your refresh rate to 30, 45 to try to fix it until we get a patch out.
That's crazy. So, like, they probably, I would imagine, fit it to Switch at 30, and
It
then
runs
that was
horribly on Switch too.
interesting. Wow, that is a huge oversight. Has the patch landed yet? Do you know?
I don't know. Like I personally don't feel like the encounters are, like they feel fine for what when I'm playing. I'm playing on the 120 hertz OLED though. So like, am I supposed to be having more battles? Because when I get to the boss, I do feel like I was in a boss battle for 30 to 40 minutes earlier. And I was like, I don't
Interesting.
know if this is just like the game is the boss battles, like this is the main thing we focused on, and the other ones are just like, whatever. Or if I'm like, you're really under leveled.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I was gonna say don't out yourself for using a 30 hertz refresh rate monitor over here because I thought that's where you were going with that. I was
Never,
like, ooh,
never.
yikes.
Disgusting. Ugh. Yeah, but I'm enjoying it. I think the story will get there. Hopefully, some of the characters are really interesting. Beautiful art style. So
Mm,
if those are things you're into, I think JRPG fans will like this one for sure.
nice, nice.
That's all I have for what I've been playing, though. So why don't we jump into the news for this week? Because we got a bunch of things to talk about, like story number one, which is a rumor coming from Nick over at Xbox Era, who stated this past weekend on the Xbox Era podcast, he's heard some, quote, very early preliminary discussions about the possibility of Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox. Well, this is just a rumor and should be taken with a massive grain of salt. Could Helldivers 2 come to Xbox in the future? And is it something we would even want to see, Sam?
Yes, I would love to see this. But I will say, I made a TikTok about this, talking about it, and somebody was
Mhm.
like, keep crying your tears. It'll never happen. And I was
Mm.
like, I already bought it. I'm playing the, I don't care, man. Like, I think it would be great to have more people coming into the game. And I think that if there is any game that PlayStation currently has in its catalog that's a live service game that's not Destiny, that deserves to come to other platforms, Helldivers 2 is it, because it's a game that could legitimately have that longevity. And the more people you've got playing, the more war bonds are going to get sold. The more people keep coming back to the game, the more people are talking about the game. It just makes sense that volume of players helps this game in the long run. And so I really hope that it's true. Now, of course, as per usual with Xbox era, it's like I heard very, very early preliminary talks that two guys
Mhm.
were taking a dump at Sony and whispered across the stall that we were thinking about it. Like there's nothing tangible here, but like I wouldn't be surprised if this was something that's the case. So I think these conversations are definitely being had. The question is, will it actually come to fruition? Who knows?
Yeah, I think that this has been a conversation since Xbox kind of opened the floodgates. It's like we're putting our 4 games on there,
Yeah.
and then everyone's like, "Well, what if PlayStation does the same thing with some of their games?" And then Helldivers 2 blew up, as we all know. And I know I've been surprised about the longevity that Helldivers 2 has
Oh
kind of
yeah.
had. Like I really did expect it, like everyone's going to be on this for a month, and then it'll kind of just fall off. And it hasn't really been the case. I still see funny Instagram
Oh yeah.
videos about Helldivers. I see tweets about it. Like Arrowhead has done a great job keeping players engaged with it. New content, frequently free content. Like we jumped into it this weekend, like we were talking about. We had an absolute blast. So, do I want people on Xbox to be able to have that same experience? Absolutely. Do I think this is going to happen? I have no idea. Luke in the chat says Helldivers is absolutely coming to Xbox, seeing the revenue numbers Xbox just posted. I'm sure Sony sees it and is hungry for it, particularly as Destiny wavers, which is a good point. You're seeing one of your main live service games kind of falter and come towards the end of its life, quote
Yeah.
unquote. And then you see Helldivers kind of blow up. And could this be the one that takes its place if you support it, if you keep the player base there? And the player base needs more players, consistently new players coming in. And while Xbox doesn't have the massive reach that PlayStation does with the install base, it has a substantial amount of players, especially if you get this on the Xbox One console. I don't think it's on PS4 yet, but if they can figure out a way, like make it run lower resolution, obviously maybe 30 FPS, and bring it to last gen, kind of like I know people don't want to hear this, but it is a good idea to for a live service game to be as many places as possible.
Yeah. I think that if anything, Helldivers 2 is the closest that Sony has come to finally getting their Halo killer. Like they've always searched for that thing, and obviously times have changed. Halo isn't the face of Xbox in the same way that it was. It's not the pinnacle of the gaming industry right now. It's coming back. But this is one of those games where it's got that vibe to it. There's humor thrown in there that Halo does not have. That's keeping that kind of like memeability of it, the conversation in
Mhm.
the community going. So like that's a benefit there. The gameplay is just fun. Like period, full stop. It's just a good time to play it. And so the fact that it's got that kind of feel to it, it's got people coming back to it. The gameplay is solid. The future is bright. I mean, you can do whatever you want with it. Add any kind of alien race you want into the mix, and you've got a winner every time. Um, like all of that just shows that they've got a winner here, and they should be wanting to make it as big as possible. And so I really, really hope that they are considering bringing it to Xbox. That would be in the works. And when it comes to the last gen stuff, I would be surprised if they didn't release it on PlayStation 4, if they were able to make that happen after the fact. Like that probably takes some R&D. They're also running on that like ancient
It's
tech
not
that
even
really
supported. Yeah.
yeah, like it should not even be on this engine. So I'm inevitably going to expect like the hey, we're porting this to Unreal Engine 5 in 2028.
Mm.
So I'm sure that'll
2028.
yeah, that'll come eventually until but until then it looks like we're rocking Helldivers 2 on what we've got right now.
Well, we have some questions regarding this. Sam Heaney, who's in the chat, shout out Sam, writes in, as rumors swirl of Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox, I can't help but feel it's wishful thinking, though it would certainly make sense to give Helldivers the strongest chance of long-term success. Sony would certainly want to try and get the game on PS4 first, at the very least, before porting to a currently wounded competitor, question mark. If it is coming, then work would have only started recently, considering how much of a surprise hit it was. And by the time it comes out, is there not the risk that the moment will have passed? Silkenit, who's also hanging out with us, follows up with that. Says, I agree that the time window to capitalize on Helldivers 2 port is small, unless they manage to keep the engagement on the game long and strong enough. Do you think they have the resources to port it fast enough?
I think that they have the resources to port it, but I do think that, I mean, even looking over the course of the past couple of months, like going to Helldivers 2 on SteamDB, I was noticing earlier this week that the chart is starting to decline a little bit. Now, looking
Mm.
out over the course of 3 months, I mean, back whenever it was first really popping off, you had like 458,000 concurrent players on Steam. Now you're looking at like daily, probably about 130. So you're looking at
Still good.
yeah, a sizable decline, but a significant amount of people that are still playing. Now, there will be ebbs and flows of that, but right now there's not really any sign of it slowing down. Now, if that port comes out in a year, I don't know about that, because there was a period of time where Splitgate was popping off in a huge way before Halo Infinite came out, and it was getting hundreds of thousands of players at one point, or a significant amount. I'm not sure what the peak was, but then Infinite came out, then Splitgate died, and it's like no one really plays it anymore. And now Halo Infinite's kind of declining, and now both of them are like they're fine, but they're not like popping off. So I think they've got the resources, but the timing is definitely very important, and we'll have to wait and see. I don't really know if it'll be able to stick that landing for a year or more.
Yeah, I really do think it depends on the content that Arrowhead continues to put out. Like if they put out like expansions, like new enemy types, like not just the robots and bugs, like we know a third enemy has to be in the works, right? Like if they can continue to support it and add things to the game, then I think it could have a sustained player amount. Like you were saying, it's dropped 300 something thousand for daily, but like I think most companies would love a game that's hitting 100,000 concurrent players a day. Like that is a very successful game on Steam. So if we can hit that those kind of stay at those numbers in the time that it takes the port to come out, I think you're looking good. Now, if I was PlayStation and Arrowhead, what I would be doing is like Xbox, you want this game. We've heard Phil Spencer say, like, I would love Helldivers 2 over on Xbox. Maybe get some of those Xbox engineers over we can help you port this game a little faster, figure out the Xbox console. Let's get this so it's not a year, it's 3 months, 6 months, however long it takes to port it, because it is on PC. So I don't think it should be that hard to translate it when you have the PC version. And that's kind of similar to the Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that Xbox would want to go in on that. And like, I would love to see a boardroom full of people that are trying to have these conversations and not like games or trading cards, but it's like, hey, you give us Helldivers, we'll send some engineers over, get Power World running faster. Like, whatever that looks like, because like the mind share that these people collectively have is too valuable to just have siloed off in their own little console spaces. Like, just let people play games wherever they want and help make it happen however you can. And inevitably, the money will come. No matter what
Mhm.
side of the fence you're on, you're going to get your cut of the pie. It's just a matter of time.
You mentioned Pal World. Luke in the chat literally said the third faction should be pals from Pal World. They've got to be stopped.
Yeah, we got to spread some democracy in Power World.
You imagine just they have guns as well. They're blasting you. You're blasting them back, but they're like little critters. Heads are flying up.
In
Could
fact,
be
just put the whole map into as a world in Helldivers. Like you can just go drop onto Power World. That sounds great.
Can we get some cross server migration? Like we get my Helldiver dropping into a Pal World
Yeah.
and then murder
On
them.
top of somebody's base.
Literally, they're just like they're all their slave pals are crafting, and then we're dropping in on them.
Perfect. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I want to call in a stratagem on somebody's 40-hour production facility they've created over a weekend.
I spent 40 hours working on this, and you just
For
blow it up.
democracy. Just no. Yeah, coming in hot.
Brutal. All right. Well, we'll see what happens with Helldivers. As of right now, again, just a rumor, not actually happening at the moment. But let's move on to story number 2. Are Xbox consoles in trouble for the 1,000th time this year? This coming from Tom Warren over at The Verge. Microsoft has put out their Q3 2024 financial report just before we went live. And over on the Xbox and gaming side of this report, Xbox content and services revenue, which includes Xbox Game Pass, is up by 62%. This is once again thanks to Activision Blizzard revenues making up the bulk of that revenue. Microsoft revealed in February that Xbox Game Pass has grown to 34 million subscribers, And 4 previously Xbox exclusive games are now available on PS5, with some launching on Nintendo Switch as well. This strategic shift is limited to these games for now, but it appears to be in response to a slowing of Xbox Game Pass growth and Xbox console sales. Satya Nadella said, quote, "We're expanding our games to new platforms, bringing 4 of our fan favorites to Nintendo Switch and Sony PlayStation for the first time. In fact, earlier this month, we had 7 games among the top 25 on the PlayStation Store, more than any other publisher." Despite some early successes for Xbox games on these rival platforms, Xbox hardware is down a massive 31% this quarter, a big drop following a soft quarter for Xbox sales during the holiday season. Microsoft admits the obvious in its earning filings that the big drop was, quote, driven by lower volume of consoles being sold. Overall, gaming is up 51%, bolstered by the additional Activision Blizzard revenue, which contributed 55 points of net impact. Yada, yada, yada. That's a bunch of numbers. Sam, Xbox consoles, not doing so great, huh?
They are not. No. I mean, we've talked about it before. We'll say it again here. Like, the console isn't Microsoft's focus. Game Pass and subscriptions are their focus. Battle passes are their focus. I think about the Call of Duty numbers, where Call of Duty has more players now than it did last year this time. And like, I think that's the exact metric they're pulling from, or that I saw earlier this week. But the fact that these users continue to come back to the games that are driving the revenue, especially in the world of Activision Blizzard, like, that's a big deal. I know that I don't know if we have it in the show notes tonight, but BlizzCon was canceled this year. That was something that
Mm-hmm.
came out earlier today. But we're coming up on the 30th anniversary of WoW. There's an expansion on the way for that. There's the Diablo Vessel of Hatred stuff that's
Mm-hmm.
coming out. Like, these are all things that are going to keep that digital revenue growing. And when it comes to the subscriptions, people have to have Game Pass if they're playing on their consoles, whether it's core or just Ultimate in general, if you want that, or the PC side of Game Pass, which continues to get some big wins there with stuff like Diablo 4 and more coming. So, I mean, the moves they're making are pretty clearly leaning into the digital future that we're all currently living in. And I mean, if you really want to extrapolate it down, we talk about the fact that there are no console wraps that are on the way, and they're just doing these like limited giveaways of consoles, and they aren't selling special edition consoles, probably because they know people aren't going to buy them. I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
some will, but like a ton of people might not be moving the needle.
Yeah. It's it's discouraging because it does make me worry that like Xbox would leave the console market. But then in the same report that I was just reading, they're talking about how the Surface tablets are tanking like kind of worse. And I'm like, they're still making those. I see Surface commercials all the time, keep coming out with new ones. They just revamped the Surface team. So like in my mind, and I said it before, as long as the Xbox console of some sort is available, I will keep supporting the Xbox console. It does seem with Satya Nadella's quote here, though, like maybe I'm reading into it, but he seems pretty pleased with the performance of these Xbox games over on other platforms, which makes me think he's going to keep pushing to bring more and more to other platforms. And I don't know if that stops determining or depending on the IP, depending on the IP legacy, or if at some point is everything everywhere. Like we want 20 out of the top 25 on PlayStation. Like we want to be that publisher.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be the case in the future. I don't think they're getting away from the consoles. We've talked about this. Sarah Bonda said they're working on the next generation of Xboxes. Like, these are things that we know are on the way. But I do think that a lot of people are going to see this news and do what I'm doing, and like, you'll lean in more to PC. You'll get a handheld. You'll do whatever you need to do. Like, I mean, right now I'm spending more time playing games like Helldivers 2 and Diablo 4 on PC. No Rest for the Wicked on PC. Not to say that my Xbox isn't getting used, but I'm getting more comfortable in that space. And I think a lot of other people are probably also in that boat as well, or considering it. Um, but the other thing about these numbers, like, hardware revenue is down in my mind, and I could be wrong about this, but that just means that people aren't buying new consoles. The
Mm-hmm.
people that are buying the subscriptions either already have a destination to play on, like a console or a PC or a phone or whatever, but like, they've bought the hardware. And so it's kind of strange that, and I speak for myself, that we kind of obsess over declining hardware numbers sometimes, when it's like, maybe the people that want an Xbox have bought an Xbox, and now they're using the Xbox to buy the games they want and play the games they want. Like, that's kind of the era that we're in right now with this generation, I think.
I think the issue comes with I get what you were saying. I think the issue comes with for a business standpoint is they've only sold like 26 million or whatever, right? And
Mhm.
PlayStation's above 50 now, we know, and they continue to sell. So if you're looking at it, you're like, well, how do we get more players to try our console? And maybe it is a thing of, well, our subscriptions keep going up, our active engagement keeps, our active users keep going up, and we don't care if it's on a console. Like if we sit at 30 million next generation too, that's great, as long as like Game Pass and the cloud and everything keeps going up. Maybe they have just firmly accepted, like, this is what we do in the console space, and this is what we're gonna do for the future, and we're okay with not growing to 50, 60 and pushing those numbers.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that could be the case. I don't. They've got to set the expectations, and I think that right now they're doing a lot of resetting with Activision Blizzard coming in. Like it's a totally new ball game they're playing right now with how much money they could realistically make. So I'm sure that the number counters over there are not having a great time trying to figure out exactly what they're shooting for at this point.
Ghostly March points out those are like GameCube numbers, which, while a great console, was deemed a failure. Yes, rest in peace to the purple lunchbox. Still Nintendo's best console, if you ask me. But what are we
Whoa,
gonna? Yeah,
hot
I love
takes.
I love the GameCube, man. I love the Xbox, so maybe everything I love is destined to fail. Yeah, not good looking numbers. It is promising that Activision Blizzard continues to boost up the Xbox brand, already repaying some of that that acquisition money, clearly. So that's good to
True.
see.
Yeah, keep it afloat. That's what they bought it for. You got to keep the money machine printing money. So
All
makes
right,
sense.
Sam, let's keep it rolling. IGN and ID at Xbox have announced a showcase is coming this Monday, April 29th, 2024. If you are listening at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, you can catch new trailers and reveals, plus updates on games like Dungeons of Hinterberg, 33 Immortals, Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, and more. This will be over on the IGN and I think the Xbox YouTube as well, but a nice little indie showcase. Xbox is putting on quite a few showcases so far this year, and we got the big one coming up in about 2 months. So you looking forward to this one? Obviously, we'll cover the actual details next week, but
Yeah, I love these little showcases, and I think this is the second time that IGN has been involved with an ID at
mhm.
Xbox show. I'm pretty sure, but I love getting into the nitty gritty of like what that double A and indie space is doing because that's where so much of the creativity in today's industry really is. At least the stuff that I'm interested in, and so seeing the big stuff like 33 Immortals also tossed in there is something that kind of sets the tone where there are going to be things here that are worth paying attention to. Not that there ever aren't, but 33 Immortals being on last year's Xbox stage and now coming to this, I think that sets a good tone for that game, but it also shows how big some of these games could potentially be for a platform like Xbox. So, yeah, very excited for that. Definitely tuning in. What about you? How you feeling about all this?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Dungeons of Hinterberg is on my watch list. It's looked a little rough in trailers. It's supposed to come out, I think, this summer, so we'll see what happens there. But 33 Immortals, I know, has been getting more talk recently. I think it had a closed beta recently for some users, or maybe that was a technical test. They had something where they were actually testing the game, allowing players to go hands on with it. So that
Mm,
seems to be moving along, getting closer. Interested to try that one. I think the idea of having 33 players all at once is absolutely crazy for that type of game. It's like a roguelite. So that'll be really interested. I don't Lost Records. I barely remember what it is. I think it's that Life is Strange kind of game, but I might be wrong. Yeah, it's really interesting to see. I'm excited to actually watch it next week. I'll be at work, so unfortunately no live react here on Save the Game Media, everyone. But I will watch it and we will talk about it next week for sure.
absolutely. One of the things I do want to call out is they say that Vampire Survivors is going to be there, and I am
Ooh.
hyped for that Contra expansion they've got coming.
Mm.
Very cool stuff. I'm a big Contra fan, so excited about that. But yeah, man, can't wait to tune in and
But
break it all down.
but Sam, is Silk Song gonna be there?
Maybe this is the time. I don't. Who knows at this point? I put out a poll on Threads, and I was like, "When do you think this game is actually coming out? Like spring, summer, fall, winter, or 2025?" And
Mm.
general consensus is this summer. I mean, it was listed on the Xbox Store, like it's up there.
It's been rated in a few countries as
Yeah.
well.
So people are like, maybe it could be a part of the Xbox showcase, drop same day, the week after, something like that, which I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. That would be a big win.
I almost, because I know people expected that Indie World Showcase Nintendo put on like 2 weeks ago. It wasn't there. And I've been under the impression like it's an indie game, but it kind of is like too big for an indie showcase. So my feeling was always like it's gonna be at the Xbox main showcase in June. If it shows up here, great. Like that would I think 10 out of 10 for most people. They don't care what else is at this little indie showcase if Silksong shows up.
So did you play Hollow Knight?
No, that game's way too hard for me.
Okay, because I played a little bit. I mean, we talked about it a few months ago, and I was kind of like dabbling with it. I never finished it, or I probably fell off probably like 2 hours into it. I'm just trying to figure out like, is the hype for this game warranted? And I'm about to get roasted in the chat, but is the hype for this game warranted? Because I feel like Hollow Knight, like, not that it's not good, but it's like it's getting up to that like mythical status of pending game release. Where is this thing? And I feel like I'm leaning into the hype because of the hype. Like that's all that's getting me excited for it. I'm just kind of like wondering if that's the tone for everybody else.
Chat says one of the best indie games of all time. Here's the thing. I got Hollow Knight and Shovel Knight confused for years. Like years on end, I confused those two games. I did not know there was a difference. Every time I saw Shovel Knight, I was like, oh, it's the Hollow Knight guy. Is definitely wrong. And this because they came out during the Xbox One generation, and Xbox One, as I've mentioned, pretty bad time for me for gaming, and tough time for sure. So I wasn't really tuned into a lot of the indie games for sure. So this kind of passed me by. Going back to it afterwards, I've just like it's a little too difficult for me to jump into. I don't know if it's warranted. Never played it. Everyone else seems to think it is.
Yeah, I don't know. We're hearing it from the chat, so they'll definitely let us know.
Yeah, let us know in the comments below. Is Silksong or is Hollow Knight overrated? But let's move on to story number 4. This one's going to be a short one. Jedi Survivor is now on Game Pass. So Xbox announced earlier this week that available April 25th, that's today if you're listening, Star Wars Jedi Survivor is now part of Game Pass Ultimate via EA Play. Sam, have you played Survivor?
I did. Yeah, I bought it at launch last year. And it was one of those games that it got caught in a bad launch. Like the game was not optimized well on Xbox. I know people were complaining for the first couple of days about the performance mode being very, very janky. So I actually played through the entire game in quality mode. And I did not get a worse experience for it. I got to be real. Like it's one of those games where the 30 FPS was fine for me and it made it feel, I know I'm a sucker for this kind of thing, but like it felt more cinematic. Like I really did. I think that's true. But it was one of those games that was overshadowed because 2023 was so packed. Like there were just, especially starting with really Tears of the Kingdom in the spring, like it was just game after game after game, pretty much all the way through a brief break in July and August with like a couple of bigger AA games like Immortals of Avium and stuff like that. But then we went right into the fall with Spider-Man, Baldur's Gate, Alan Wake, Starfield, like all these big games. And so I think it kind of got forgotten a good bit. But this is a great opportunity for anybody to go back. Fallen Order's also on Game Pass, another fantastic game. But yeah, I love Jedi Survivor.
Awesome. I own Fallen Order on like 3 different platforms because I feel like it's been given away to me and I just always claim it. I was like, maybe one day I will play this game because it's like, I hear it's a very accessible Souls unquote unquote game for people that don't really like that genre. My problem is I'm kind of not feeling Star Wars lately. And I haven't felt Star Wars for a few years now. And like, there was a time like when the newest episode 7 came out, right? Because 8, 9, 7 came out. I was like, yo, Star Wars, we're back, baby. Like I was into it. And then 8 came out. I was like, this franchise dead. Dead on horrible movie. And then 9 was also pretty bad. So I think they've just nothing. And everyone told me to watch The Mandalorian. Hot take here. I was bored. I watched 3 episodes of The Mandalorian and I fell asleep, guys. I couldn't do it. I don't know what's going on.
Understandable. I am not I watched the new trilogy, obviously, like everybody did. Not a TV guy. I've watched like 5 episodes of The Mandalorian, all that other stuff. I don't know. I know that Obi-Wan's supposed to be like some of the best Star Wars TV. I saw the clips. good clips. But yeah, they can totally stand alone. Like there's not really anything huge that if you're not keeping up with the newest lore in the world of Star Wars, you're going to be missing out on. And the story of Cal Kestis is one that like is a great standalone story. You don't have to have those other characters that are floating around out there. So even if you're not into it, it is worth going and checking out. But if you're not into Star Wars, let me tell you, it's more Star Wars. So, don't force yourself into that.
Maybe one day when I like get the bug again, that stuff, I'm like, oh, Star Wars is good. Maybe I just need to go watch the old movies and just like rekindle,
Yeah,
because
that's what I'm talking about.
I was pretty excited for Star Wars Battlefront. Like that was a thing.
Ooh.
So like the love can still be there.
Yeah, the love can still be there. How do you feel about Rogue One? Did you like Rogue One?
Yeah, I love Rogue One. Great movie.
Yeah, Rogue One's very good. Did
Yeah.
you play Star Wars Squadrons?
I have it. I haven't played it.
Yeah, it's pretty solid too. It's a good time. It's a good space shooter. Anyways, I don't
Yeah.
want to go on a tangent, but like there's a lot of good Star Wars stuff out there. It's just the people get soured down on the stuff that's just really bad or really controversial.
Yeah, and if you want more Star Wars arguments, check out our friends over at the Bitcast. You can listen to Ty Guy Travis and Ho Law argue about it most Sundays.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, story number 5. Grounded's PS5 performance, a little rough. So, Grounded launched last week on PlayStation consoles, and according to Lee Brady over at True Trophies, is actually performing sales-wise quite well. From their sample of trophy data, Grounded appears to have topped Hi-Fi Rush's player count by 49% and Pentiment's player count by at least 89%. Sea of Thieves launches this week, so it'll be interesting to see how it performs, but Grounded's off to a good start player-wise. Performance-wise, however, a different story emerges. According to Digital Foundry, Grounded on Series X is essentially a locked 60 FPS barring occasional one-frame drops, but on PlayStation 5, the game plummets into the 50s and low as 45 FPS. It is also running at a lower dynamic resolution between 1080p and 1215p compared to Xbox's 1512p and 4K. So, kind of two sides of the coin here. Players are enjoying Grounded. Great. Love to see it. I think Obsidian might need to go back to the optimization area, though, and get it worked out for them over there.
I mean, for me personally, I'm glad that Xbox heard our feedback and they finally started making these games worse on the inferior platform. Like, I think that's really the big takeaway here. Of course, I'm kidding. Yeah, like I don't. Really
I'd make it worse.
Yeah.
When I said get back to the optimization, yeah, you're too good.
Yeah.
30 FPS, 720.
Why is this resolution still have 4 digits in it? Get those numbers down. We're playing a game of golf here.
Bayonetta 3 ran at 360p. All right, I think we can get it down there.
You want it in 45 FPS. I want it at 45p. That's what we're aiming for now. No, but for real, this sucks. Like you want the game to be as good as it can everywhere. Like that's fine. I do find it incredibly interesting that there's that much of a disparity between two consoles that are pretty comparable in performance. So I don't know if that just speaks to how different the architecture for each one is, or the capabilities between teams, different groups of people working on stuff. But yeah, hopefully some patches come in and fix that. At this point, I hate that I'm used to it, but like I'm used to it. Launches are going to be rough, and then in 3 weeks a patch will come out and it'll be fine. Like and no one will remember it was bad to begin with. So I don't really get too out of shape about this kind of thing, but still a bummer if you were excited about it. Cool sales numbers though. Really neat to see that much player data.
Yeah, it's I think that's the more interesting part for me. Like all I have to really say about the performance is like I'm sure Obsidian will fix it. They seem like the company that like they're tuned into those kind of things. They will patch it as soon as they can. So if you are interested in Grounded on PlayStation, maybe just hold off until the patch comes out, then pick it up. Or if you don't care about the frame rate, go in, dive into it. But the True Trophies numbers, which obviously it's a sample, they don't have access to the entirety of PlayStation's back end to see the actual player counts. But from their sample, 49% over Hi-Fi Rush, which is surprising to me because Hi-Fi Rush, in my opinion, is a much superior game to Grounded. Like I love Grounded. Played it for tons of hours. I think Hi-Fi Rush is a top tier game. Like that is one of those 9 out of 10 games that Xbox really put out there into the world.
Yeah, I was going to Google and see how much Grounded is on PS5. So it's $40 on PS5. How much was Hi-Fi Rush?
I think it's 30.
Let me see. Because my thing is with Grounded, it's one of those games that it's actually on sale for $20.99, I believe. $20, not bad. Grounded is one of those games, much like Helldivers, where like the value is really having friends with it. And Hi-Fi Rush is a stylized, rhythm action game that might not be as like immediately identifiable if you're looking at it from a trailer of like, oh, I know what I want. I know what I'm getting from that. With Grounded, it's clearly like a 4-player survival game, and we've had a whole handful of those that do well. Valheim comes to mind. I think that has multiplayer now, but either way, you know what I'm saying. Stuff like Rust, whatever, the survival games, and it's got a good style to it. So I could see the shared value of like, oh, yo, Grounded dropped on PlayStation, let's all grab it, and then that's 4 sales instead of 1. That kind of thing probably helps a lot.
Yeah, certainly could be the reason that Grounded is performing so much better. I think 89% over Pentiment is not very surprising to me. Pentiment is a very niche game. I don't know how many people actually like even played it on Xbox. I think that's more of a Switch game. If people like, if we had to assign it to a platforms, I would expect the audience over there to play Pentiment over the Xbox and PlayStation audience. But like, again, man, single player game, like, isn't that what PlayStation's known for? Like, it just surprised me Hi-Fi Rush didn't really take the world by storm over on that platform. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they're going to get a lot of data that's going to show a lot of interesting differences between Xbox and PlayStation players. And I think that goes the same for Switch and probably for PC as well. Like there's just going to be some very interesting data that shows the interest differences between each group. And there will be some overlap, but maybe this is one of those data points where it's like, oh, people don't like the Hi-Fi Rush over there, but they love it over here. No one likes Pentiment anywhere. I'm just kidding. It's another joke, but
No one
had to
likes
throw it in
fun.
there.
Go see the chat is saying we got no multiplayer games on PlayStation. That's why they're doing so well versus the single player. We got the single player games, and that could be a data point that Xbox gets. So like our single player games, we don't need to put them on PlayStation. They're not really blowing up over here. Our multiplayer games, however, let's get all those going over here.
Yeah, I think the whole chat just revealed that they're not helping fight the war, and y'all all need to go spread democracy. All right, that's what I'm hearing right now.
Yeah, cowards. I'll tell you, Super Earth won't defend itself. But
go to the kitchen, get some liberty, come back, and then we'll be fine.
My favorite, your guy was yelling so many things when we were playing the other day, and I was like,
"My leg!"
I was like, does Sam have like some setting on where his guy doesn't stop talking?
Sweet liberty.
It was great.
That's awesome.
All right, that is all the news we have for this week, but we have some listener questions to round out the show. Sam Heaney wrote in again, and so can it followed up again, so I'll read both of them. He says, where the F is the Hellblade marketing? I know I've mentioned this already, but it's pretty crazy that we're less than a month away and there's no billboards or TV or online ads that I know of, despite the short length and wanting to maybe preserve spoilers. Why isn't Xbox marketing the hell out of this game to show the public that they do have, quote, a AAA game like PlayStation? Lack of hype and build up led to games like Hi-Fi Rush ultimately underperforming, and I can't see why Xbox wouldn't have a vested interest in splashing Senua's face everywhere to maximize sales or Game Pass subscriber growth. So can it said, are quote unquote standard marketing deals that worth it in today's time? Generally have no idea of their cost versus real impact.
Yeah, I really do think this comes back to what we had talked about a couple of weeks ago, where this game is going to be great. I'm confident in that. I feel like it's going to be a really awesome game with a really awesome story that has some really high visual fidelity. But when you put up a billboard, when you put out an ad, when you pull, a YouTube ad, even like when you put out stuff like that, you set an expectation that something's going to be a really big deal. And if somebody goes out, buys the game or plays it on Game Pass, going in expecting that really polished AAA experience that's 40 hours long, and it turns out to be a really polished 6 to 8 hours, they're going to be like, yo, what is Xbox doing? I literally finished this tonight. And I just don't think that Microsoft wants to set that expectation and then not be able to deliver on it. So I do agree that there needs to be more. Like, we've got to talk about this game more. I do think that it's shocking that it hasn't really popped up as much as it probably should be. But I do think they're walking a very tight line of how they do that effectively without overhyping the game or underhyping the game. Like they've got to kind of hit that fine line in between, and that can be a difficult one to hit, especially when you're coming off of multiple arguable marketing flops. I mean, like
Mhm.
that's kind of like what we've been seeing a little bit. We talk about how Xbox's social team and marketing teams need to kind of get their act together on a lot of things, and Hellblade is definitely one of those right now for sure.
The problem with Hellblade 2 is that it's not a controller. Like, if it was this was a controller,
Yeah, that is the problem.
then then the marketing team would be all over it.
If this was a special edition Xbox with 3 in existence, no problem.
No problem.
Totally
Yeah.
possible.
Retweet hashtag. Yeah.
Yeah.
To answer the question though, I like to believe, and this is me giving them the benefit of the doubt. I like to believe that they know Hellblade 2 is going to be like a critical darling. And so they gave us those previews a few weeks ago, and they're like, we're just going to let word of mouth. We're going to let the reviews come out a few days before. It's going to score 90 something. And then the internet is going to blow up like, oh my God, Xbox has this game. That is what I like to believe. Do I think that's realistic? Probably not. They probably should have some YouTube ads. They probably should have some TV spots saying like play Hellblade 2 and like show off how good it looks to the casual consumer. That is certainly something they should do. And whether that's coming and they're just like, we're tightening the marketing window for this game because it is a shorter experience, I don't know. But like less than a month out, you think it'd be ramping up here.
Yeah, they definitely need to do more stuff. And I think that if we don't see something by the time that we talk next week in any kind of like significant way, like something going on with it that's not a niche like music of Hellblade or sounds of Hellblade or something like that, because I think they did something like that a couple of
We
weeks ago.
we had a it was a presentation, I believe, at Oxford with a
Yeah.
neuropsychiatrist. That'll
Yeah,
get the gaming audience.
like that, but that's my thing. Like, I love the fact that that exists. I did not watch it, but like it's one of those things that gets into the science and the meaning behind Hellblade 2 and what Cindy was going through. Like that's great, but people want to get the game sold to them. So like you got to sell me the game
Mhm.
and the neurological intricacies of Sinua's mind. That ain't gonna do it. Like I need some gameplay and a cool trailer to get me going on that. So I really hope we see that by the time we talk next week.
Yeah, it's like she's got a sword. Can you show us using the sword? They're like, all right, so like when the neurons fire and someone with schizophrenia, and I'm like,
When you say
okay.
use the sword, do you mean the thought of her lifting her arm? Because I can show you that.
When a delusion happens in someone's mental illness, that's not what I'm asking though. Like, are there like enemies? Do they
Can I
fight people?
stab someone,
Yeah, yeah,
please?
yeah, yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. But last question before we head out for the evening. Alpaca Tom writes in, says, do we think that Microsoft will continue to expand their own showcases and add on Blizzard's content as it did with Bethesda? Or do we think it will continue to have its own standing events for both Blizzard? Generally, these events include tournaments, announcements for specific games updates, and new releases. I think this is a very timely question considering they canceled BlizzCon mere hours ago.
Yeah, this is now going to be the Xbox and Bethesda and Blizzard showcase coming up here in a couple of
What
weeks.
about Activision?
The Xbox. Hold on, I'm trying to make the Xbox and Bethesda and Activision Blizzard showcase. There we go, featuring Call of Duty at the very end, and a Starfield special presentation.
Another one.
Another one. We've got to get to the point where these things are siloed off a little bit more. And to answer Tom's question directly, like I do think that Blizzard is going to continue having its own thing. And I think you're going to be seeing more of what we get with like the Elder Scrolls Online, where typically whenever there's a Bethesda presentation, it's, hey, here's all this new stuff. And by the way, if you're playing Elder Scrolls Online, here's all the stuff coming to that. So I think the BlizzCon getting canceled is one of those kind of like unfortunate situations. I don't know why they canceled it this year. Maybe it's just not coming together well, planning wise, or whatever. But I do think that you'll see them show up more at Gamescom. They said as much. Other events throughout the year, holding their own events, and I think that Call of Duty is a good example of that too. Where I guarantee you it'll have a significant presence during the Xbox show, but Call of Duty Next is probably going to be coming back once again in August for like the, hey, we showed you what the game is. Now here's the multiplayer world premiere. And then they'll get
Mhm.
into it. So I think you're going to be seeing more of that. And honestly, I'm all down for that because that spreads the hype out to where everything can get the attention that it really deserves. And everybody's not focused on what stole the show and everything else falls to the wayside.
Yeah, I think the June showcase can just be called the Xbox showcase. Like at this point, we need to understand like Xbox means Bethesda, Activision Blizzard. Like those are the Xbox games going forward. It doesn't mean that they can't have their own individual events, though. Like you were saying, Call of Duty will have their thing. I'm sure. I don't know if QuakeCon is still happening. That could be a rev or an avenue for them to give some announcements there as well. But that Bethesda obviously can do their own Elder Scrolls. Like they can do whatever they want to me. Like if they went to Xbox and were like, "Yo, we just want to do our own Elder Scrolls stream," they're like, yeah, "Okay, we'll market the hell out of that." But these are things like the developer directs a thing now, right? Like we get that in January. Do they add a second one to highlight more things? Like here's I don't know if that's needed. It seems maybe a little overkill, especially with things like Gamescom, the Game Awards, like where they can show off their games at those places as well. So I don't know if it's needed. There's just so many places to show off games at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point of start showing them at these places because I mean the past two game awards haven't really had too much significant like Xbox presence. I know there was like a joke about that last year beyond just the nominations, but there wasn't like a ton of Xbox news that came out of it. And not that there has to be Xbox news at every single presentation or showcase, but the company has grown to the point that it would be weird if there wasn't almost. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have so many entities up underneath your banner that yeah, there just needs to be a steady stream of Xbox news coming at pretty much every big event. And if you can't put it there, then build your own event at that point, I think.
Yep, absolutely. I agree with that. So we'll have the showcase in a little over a month. Is it June? June, yeah,
Yeah,
June.
June.
Yeah, wow, a little over a month. Wow, we're getting there. So that means the news is gonna dry up real quick soon.
Oh
And
yeah.
then yeah, we're not gonna have much to talk about except rumors about what's gonna be at the showcase because
Yeah,
those are about to start flooding out,
we'll have to do
guaranteed.
our predictions and
Yeah.
whatnot. They'll start coming out, and then you'll hear an insider gaming thing about how the Grinch is coming to Game Pass, and then we'll have to react
Oh,
to the
I can
Grinch
get the
coming to Game Pass.
100%. Let's
Yeah,
go.
so many, yeah, all of the outright games coming to Game Pass.
They
Is that what they're
bought
called?
outright
Outright?
games. Yeah,
Yeah.
outright games. Yeah. I think they're a small British team that somehow has a bunch of licenses to video games.
Mm.
They need to be stopped, but
They spend all the money on the license. That's what happens. Yeah,
then they don't have money to make the
yeah.
actual game, which
Here are
is why.
$3 million. Anyways, our budget's $10, and
Yeah,
we'll just
can
yeah,
you make the Grinch model with this remaining 10
yeah.
and then like just asset flip the rest? I don't know.
I think they should do a Bob's Burger game, but it's the style of that Lilo and Stitch game from the Disney.com website from back in like the mid 2000s, where you just play as a little alien capturing the burger. Like, and I don't know, that could be maybe I'm younger than everybody in the chat or older. I don't know where I'm playing right now, but that'd be a good game, and I buy that.
I was gonna say they should make it like the SpongeBob web game where it was like just the grill and then you just had to make a Krabby
Ah, yeah,
Patty.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Did you ever play Taco Master on the Vita?
No, I didn't
Oh
have a
man,
Vita. I didn't have any PlayStation stuff.
Vita is life, and you didn't have one if you didn't have a Vita, man. Let me tell you,
I
Taco
thought
Master banger.
I don't know if I told you. I think I have mentioned to you. Like I have almost bought a Vita multiple times, like over
Yeah,
the last 2 years.
a little
But they're just
JRPG machine, man.
it is. It
Yeah.
is, especially because they're shutting down the store and taking stuff off. And
Yeah.
like, I need to buy some of this. Mainly, I just want to play PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale. It's
I
really,
mean, I get it. You know, that's a simple thing. That and Killzone Mercenary and Taco Master, you're good.
I think Killzone Mercenaries is on PS Plus now. I think I
Is
can
it
play it. I
really?
think so.
Oh, if it is, you need to play that. That is such a good game.
Unless I'm thinking of the wrong. There's something
If it's
on there, but
PSP, you might be thinking of Liberation, I think is
ooh,
what it
I think
is.
that's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I don't know if Vita games are on PlayStation Plus. Are they?
yeah. That's probably a good call. I
Yeah.
I lose, bro. I can't keep track. I don't know.
Yeah.
PlayStation's got too many things going on, to be
They
honest.
got
Like,
they got a lot going on. They have things are flying.
well, Sam, I had a great time with you. You want to let everyone know where they can find you until next week.
Oh yeah, you can find me JamPackSam everywhere, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, all those fun places, making content. Whole lot of Fallout content this week. Got a couple of collectibles back there on the shelf now. Picked up a couple of things, so unboxed some of
Nice.
those. But yeah, man, having a good time. And as always, right here every Thursday, you know where to find me.
Oh, you're too kind. You're too kind. Well, you can find me at the Muffin Mon on Twitter, Threads. I logged into Threads for the first time a few weeks today, so if you, I'm trying to be more active on that platform. All right, I'm
Get
gonna
over
try
here,
to
man.
get
It's where the party's at.
Muffin Mon 107 instead of an A. Follow us at Save Game Media, also on those platforms to stay up to date with all of our latest videos. Until next time, we will see you. Goodbye.